So we have arrived at the last session of today. And the last session is always the most important session, right? And so this session is going to be about cross-chain DeFi. And we're going to talk about topics such as why do we want cross-chain DeFi to begin with? What are some of the obstacles in going cross-chain? What are some of the benefits? What are some of the use cases that we should be looking at? And potentially, what is the role of Algorand within a cross-chain DeFi ecosystem? So those are the topics we're going to handle. I am Marc Vanlerberghe. I'm the CMO of the Algorand Foundation. And let's just start with doing some intros.
Hey, Marc. Thanks for having us on the panel. My name is Ibu. I'm the CMO of Folks Finance, which is the largest DeFi app on Algorand, lending, borrowing, liquid staking, and a couple other tools as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Marc, for having us here today. I'm Zeno Auersperg, head of DeFi at Folks Finance, and besides that, also co-founder and CEO of ACube, which is a strategic and economic consulting company. And we help startups in Web3 to accelerate or on the economic side, designs and expansions.
Okay, well, welcome. So let's start with the first part, is why cross-chain DeFi matters. And so, you know, I've been in this job for like less than a year, slightly less than a year, 11 months, almost coming up to 1 year. And so it always surprises me to think about that this is even a question. You know, the idea that every blockchain lives on an island and that these islands have like very tall walls around them and that you can't cross from one to the other always strikes me as something that is utterly bizarre. And yes, yet that's how it works today, right? Every single blockchain is pretty much an island that lives on its own. And so let's have a chat first about why do we think cross-chain DeFi matters?
Well, I like the island analogy that you draw up, and to expand upon it, it's okay to live on different islands, but your life will probably be better if you can trade with other islands as well. You know, you can get things that they produce, they can get things that you produce, creates more prosperity for everybody involved. Another way I like to think about it is to compare blockchains to cell phone networks. So, you know, I use Verizon, but somebody else might use AT&T, but we should be able to call each other seamlessly and easily. It wouldn't be too great if we had to jump through hoops and do a lot of backflips to contact each other. So, you know, cross-chain DeFi is definitely where the industry is going to head. I think a couple years ago, we weren't sure about whether multiple blockchains could exist at the same time. And a lot of people believe, I mean, the majority of the industry believed that like everything was going to end up on one chain, whether that was ETH or Algo or anything else. But at this point, different chains hit different markets and different niches. And so we've reached a point where we have to, you know, open up those trading avenues between the different blockchains, and it can create a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and to add something on my side, like I feel that DeFi is already a niche, and if we see all the different ecosystems we have in DeFi, it's like niches in niches. And if we think that our scope should be to grow DeFi in general, and I know it feels weird and something new, but what we have seen all the past years is foundations, new layers coming up, and there's competition between all these layers and new blockchains and networks, and everyone is focused only on let's steal the TVL of other networks, let's steal the users of other networks, but like, this is not efficient at all. Like, it's not growing the market. It's just stealing and moving from one niche to another niche. And if we think that the current ecosystem is fragmented across all these networks, so the liquidity is fragmented across all these networks, the user interfaces, the apps are fragmented, and everything is fragmented. It makes no sense. So I think with cross-chain models, the real benefit is that we can start changing the focus of stealing TVL of other chains, but foundations can cooperate and have cross-chain models that focus on native assets on the different chains, but it's not anymore a fight, it's more a collaboration. And that will bring efficiency, and that's how we will grow as a niche. But the niche needs to be DeFi, not Algorand, not Avalanche, not Base. Like I see it like this, and
Yeah.
that's how it can work and go mainstream, what we all want, but we all focus only on our small niche in the niche.
I mean, that's the key point, really, right? It's like the idea of like, how does this industry go mainstream? And like, as long as we all live on our own island, it's going to be hard to actually, for this industry to actually truly go mainstream.
Yeah, and I think like at the beginning of DeFi, the idea was, okay, we will have one winner, we will have one chain or maybe two, but we are seeing like, we are continuously seeing new chains, and I think we will never end to a point where there's one winner. So let's leverage at least all these different ecosystems and take the good parts of every ecosystem and try to create some interoperability across those and create a better ecosystem where there's some good partnerships and good collaborations across all these islands.
So you don't believe in a God chain?
God chain?
A God chain?
No, I would not. I mean, people. Yeah,
Solana is the God chain, isn't it? Like Solana is like taking over the world, if you believe them.
Not really, because you know, they're actually, funny enough, there was a report published by Masari yesterday about meme coins, and Solana's a lot of Solana's activity, revenue, volumes, and all the major metrics that they've been kind of pushing are generated by meme coin trading almost exclusively. So, you know, I think, like Zeno was saying, that's maybe the niche that they kind of captured and ended up dominating. But in terms of real world assets or institutional adoption, I would say there's so much opportunity for other networks to step in and dominate those spaces.
Well, any presentation always has to have a small dig on Solana.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just what needs to
Clickbait.
happen, right. Okay, so let's talk about the main obstacles. Like we talked about, okay, cross-chain DeFi obviously is important and it's critical. Like, what are some of the main obstacles that exist to actually making this a reality?
So one of the things, especially from an Algorand point of view, is that Algorand's code base is not very similar to EVM chains. So that's something that, that's a hurdle that is being addressed right now. And you know, when there's a challenge such as that, it doesn't mean to back down from it. You know, it means to, at least the way that we see it, is we want to address it and we want to fix those problems. So that's one of the roadblocks. And the other roadblock, at least in my opinion, is getting different, Zeno kind of alluded to this, but getting different foundations and chains to work together and accept working together in certain ways. Just like how, you know, I don't know, the US and China still trade, even though there's some tensions in other areas. I think it's on a much smaller scale comparable to different blockchains. You might be rivals in certain areas, but you still need to figure out a way to work together if it is mutually beneficial. So I think but it's difficult, right? It takes a good amount of diplomacy and deal making and creative thinking. And so I think that's where we're at industry-wide as we see different infrastructure kind of pop up for cross-chain, and then it's up to the chains to figure out how to use it.
So do you think ultimately what you're going to see is like having DeFi protocols that have an app that runs seamlessly across multiple blockchains, or do you see more better bridging technologies, native token transfer technologies, or it's a combination of both? Like, what is the mechanism to actually get there?
Well, what I like to see is the first example that, of course, is also aligned and in parallel to the second example. So in the end, it's a mix of both. But like, what I really don't like is all this, like, if I want to be active in more ecosystems, I need to have several wallets, I need to connect to different apps. And so in the end, what I'd like to see is cross-chain apps that you can connect from whatever chain, but you are on the same, like the model integrates the different chains. It's not that you have to switch chain, what we are seeing now with all the multi-chain models, because we have all Aave, Uniswap, and so on, they are already integrated in several chains, but there's no interoperability across these chains. It's just copy-paste of the same protocol and deployed on new chain. And it's not adding value to the model. And so what I like to see is all the chains in one app and the smoothest possible interoperability and user experience on that. And that's what we are trying to do as well at Folks. And one one point that is necessary to have before this is the second example you were mentioning, which means having the infrastructure and having the technology that allows tokens to be aligned to these models, cross-chain models. And so there's need of innovation on the tech side to allow this type of models of being live.
Yeah, and we've begun some initial work on developing some infrastructure that can help Algorand connect to multiple chains and allow tokens to flow natively from Algorand into and out of Algorand naturally without wrapping, and it's just going to be a much cleaner way, and it opens up possibilities for Algorand apps to expand their products to other chains, and for other chains to see that Algorand's in the mix of options that they can deploy on, and I think that will cause more companies and apps to come into Algorand as well.
Okay, so AJ, you have to pay attention because there's some alpha coming right here. Go on.
Oh, okay, so all right, so Folks is beginning work to develop the NTT framework, which is from Wormhole, that will connect that new standard to Algorand and to other chains. So as I was just saying, tokens that get minted on Algorand will have the same level of interoperability with all the rest of major Solana chains, including major Wormhole chains, including Base and Solana, Avalanche, and other majors. So it's just one thing that's going to be bringing Algorand up into that echelon as well. And I think everyone in this room agrees that Algorand definitely deserves to be in that echelon. So, whatever we could do to get it there, that's what we want to do.
Okay, you heard it here first. Wormhole entity coming to Algorand.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that I'd like to explain precisely this point of why do we need something like that. As for now, we already have a lot of bridges. We have wrapped versions of tokens and stuff like that, right? But the problem is that if we want to create and build cross-chain products, we need cross-chain native tokens, because if not, let me do an example of unified pools, okay? So a unified pool works that you can, no matter which blockchain you are using to deposit your asset, all the assets are unified in one big pool in a hub chain, okay? Which is very efficient, because if we think about lending nowadays, you have the lending markets fragmented across the different chains. And you have 7 pools, because you have 7 chains, which all have 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, and so on, right? Now imagine with a cross-chain native standard in the token side, you can unify all these pools because the contract of the token is the same, and you can unify from whatever chain, and you will have one big pool that will have the sum of all the different fragmented pools as the TVL. And of course, if a borrower comes in, before on Ethereum you could borrow up to 30 million, on Algorand up to 20 million, on Arbitrum to 50 million, and now you have the entire pool to be used, And so that's necessary for cross-chain products to be live.
Yeah, and another example is, so the Algorand consensus upgrade just launched. You could use something like NTT to give users the option of, if you're going to, in theory, mint a liquid staking token on Algorand, you could give the user the choice to mint it on another chain natively. So someone from a different ecosystem, if they want to access yield on Algorand, or they want to do something like that, they can go in and then bring that liquidity to their ecosystem, which is actually a double benefit, because they're not only depositing on Algorand, but they're using the bridge and spreading an Algorand liquid staking token to other ecosystems. So we might see use cases like that start to be unlocked.
So are you also announcing that Algo will be able to be staked on Avalanche?
Maybe, but I don't know if we want to go all the way there yet.
So one thing for sure that we already tried in the past, because in December 2022 we did the first let's say cross-chain liquid staked asset, which was Exalgo at the time.
The first version.
Yeah, where we tried to bring the yield of the governance on Algorand on new chains by bridging the liquid staked asset, so that also users on Avalanche, we did it on Binance and on Avalanche, so that users on other ecosystems could participate and get the rewards on Algorand, but without having to move necessarily to Algorand and staying in their ecosystem. And we saw that maybe the market was not yet ready for something like that, but now the narrative is kicking much harder. And in the end, I guess that I don't want to care, like I don't want to stress out on which chain I'm in and so on. What I want to do is I want to be like exposed on different markets, but without having to have like 7 wallets and 7 different apps, you know? So imagine having all cross-chain liquid staked assets, which is something in our roadmap, which you can mint, you can hold, and you can manage wherever you prefer.
So one question I have is kind of on user experience. Like I think we pride ourselves in Algorand that we have one of the best user experiences available in DeFi, right? Like transactions go through instantly, there's no failures, it's very reliable, it's fast. And so how in this cross-chain world, how do you see Algorand playing a role to kind of make that user experience better across chain? Is there a role for Algorand to play, maybe to become a hub in this kind of wider ecosystem so that it facilitates transactions from other chains and makes these other transactions also better and makes the user experience better?
Yeah, for sure. I think, especially recently, notably the block that was produced on Algorand with 34,000 transactions was a big viral moment on social media. It brought attention to the robust nature of Algorand's tech, and when cross-chain tools are opened up and interoperability is easily accessible, it's definitely possible that people and projects will look at Algorand and say, wow, it has unique strengths that we could leverage, and we're going to want to tap into those in some way. So, I mean, yeah, when you give someone it's like giving a brand new color on the canvas. Like if you could never use blue before, now you can use blue, and you never know what you're going to use it for specifically. But
because that is still a really big issue, I think, in DeFi in general, is like the user experience still is pretty poor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
not on, of course, Folks Finance.
No, but yes, like there's
at least not on Folks Finance on Algorand.
Yeah, it's come a long way. User experience of DeFi has come a long way, but it's still so early. It's like the first day of the month, and what were you gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say.
Like I think we don't even have to discuss this. Like user experience in DeFi is just something that is not aligned to masses.
Yeah.
Like if we think like okay, now mobile apps are something that is quite I would say mainstream, and everyone knows how to use. Also, my grandparents use mobile apps and stuff like that, and that's also why we wanna move as well in that type of product, and we are developing a mobile app with the most fintech or Web2 user experience, because we feel that that's what's needed in DeFi. That's what's needed to onboard higher masses. And in the end, it's good to have the technology in the back end, but honestly, I'm not seeing my grandmom doing a wallet and writing down the seed phrase and then connecting to a D app and start using smart contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say is that blockchains, really over time, hopefully they fade more into the background, and we don't need to even advertise because they're just all being pulled upon in different ways. You know what I mean? So as an infrastructure layer, the number one bit of success for a blockchain would be the highest amount of usage by projects and investors and developers. So with more tools, you get way closer to that goal.
So would you say it's a big priority from folks' perspective to really double down on that user experience and bring in normies into the app?
Yeah, 100%. But we also realize that first we have to convince people, and from a Folks Finance perspective, we have to convince people to use Folks. because it still is somewhat of an advanced DeFi product, even though we try to make it as easy as possible. So if we can convince DeFi users to use it, then we can potentially expand to new users, and then maybe expand to more retail or Web2 or TradFi institutions. And really, we want it to be open for everybody to use.
So in this cross-chain world, how can you, as Folks Finance, how can you tap into the, I don't know, $2 trillion of liquidity that exists in Bitcoin and have them use this as collateral for loans? Are you thinking about that?
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of having a cross-chain model. If you integrate a Bitcoin network, you can have as many Bitcoins as you want as collateral on Bitcoin and operate on other and borrow on other networks and start counting those as metrics in the DeFi side.
Yeah. So Bitcoin, I completely agree with Zeno. My apologies.
Thank you.
That Bitcoin DeFi is, I think, is going to continue growing massively. It's probably extremely appealing to people with Bitcoin holders or whales and institutions who are more interested in using the finality and reliability of Bitcoin. And there are some Bitcoin layer 2s and Bitcoin chains that have spun up, like BitLayer or Botanix, that we've been exploring because they've been integrating cross-chain tools as well. And if folks could be the first cross-chain lending and cross-chain DeFi protocol to connect to those, it could open up an enormous, like a fire hose of liquidity. Right. So hopefully we can get there.
Yeah. So going back to NTT, let's talk. You guys have actually, you're doing the implementation of NTT on Algorand, which is great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, what does NTT mean specifically for developers, like for other developers on Algorand? What can it bring to them, and what are the benefits for them?
Yeah. So the idea is that every project on Algorand, once it's implemented, they will be able to launch their token as a native cross-chain token, which means that what we were discussing before, that if you wanna expand on new chains or new networks, you don't have to wrap it, or you don't have to do some technical advanced stuff, but you will just burn it on Algorand and mint it natively on a new chain, and the token is that one. And this is needed for the same reasons as before, for being a cross-chain project, because if you're a cross-chain project and then you have the token only native on one chain, but you have community on other chains, it makes no sense for those communities.
Yeah, if you, bringing it back to the original analogy, whenever a nation, like when the nation of Japan opened up its borders for trade, that's when they started to grow. And any nation, when they open up with a new trade partner, it's almost always beneficial to both. So it's actually very exciting. And not only what Zeno said, that algo projects can expand into other networks, but other networks can look at algo and expand in as well.
Yeah, and also thanks to these entity tokens, you will be able as well to get integrated in cross-chain models. Because if you don't have a native cross-chain token, you're not going to be aligned or able to be listed in a unified pool and so on. So it's helpful and it's needed.
Okay. Wonderful. So I think it's almost time to wrap up. Maybe one last question for you. So what's next for folks? What's coming next?
Well,
big priorities.
So you guys know we're planning to launch our governance token this year. You can look forward to that. Then we're focusing
this year. Anything more narrower, like?
No.
Q2, Q3.
Hey, we said it in the article that we launched at the beginning. Go, you guys, check out our Medium. Check out our Medium and read the article. You'll get other updates as well. But besides that, I mean, that's going to be a cool thing, right? But that's not final goal. You know, that's just it's just a thing that we're doing. And a lot of DeFi protocols launch governance tokens. So it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. But it's not like that's our final and then we're going to ride off to the sunset. It's pretty much actually just one of the first steps in a whole new set of goals that we want to do, including, like he said, the mobile app, DeFi-powered card where you can tap into your loans on folks and spend after depositing, you can spend on the borrow, and that's going to be very interesting because you'll be able to earn on your deposit while you're able to spend the money as well. So, we'll share more details about that. And then we also have, we're planning V2 of the cross-chain. And in the V2, one of the primary goals for us is to have Algorand integration into it. So we're going to reach a point where we have one unified Folks app again, and Algorand users will be able to enjoy the cross-chain, and the users from our other ecosystems will be able to enjoy the benefits of Algorand, and that's going to be really exciting.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. And thanks for this. So, any questions before we close? Any questions for folks, for anybody in the room? Nope. I think everybody's looking at the drinks, I think. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys for joining me in this conversation. And
thank you so much, Marc.
Thanks,
guys.